Welcome to the Intuitive Rising podcast. I'm your host, Amy Brooks. This is a podcast that invites you to remember who you are, return to yourself, and rise into your highest and best soul self. Every week, I will be sharing inspiring conversations about topics that hold keys to your awakening. My mission as an international evidential psychic medium, Reiki practitioner, and intuitive mentor is to help you rise into who you were born to be. Enjoy the show. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Intuitive Rising podcast. I'm your host, Amy Brooks, and I am so glad that you're here. Happy Halloween for those of you who celebrated it. It was just a couple of days ago, and here we are, first few days of the month of November, the 11th month of 2024. Kind of sort of crazy. If you have not listened to the previous episode of this podcast and you would like to tap in or to listen to kind of what comes up about the month of November 2024, please go back and do so. I felt like there was so much that came through for us in this month that probably will be pretty helpful to you who is listening. So we just experienced the time change yesterday, and that takes a little bit of adjusting. I don't know about you, but it certainly does for me. Getting dark at 5 o'clock. I don't mind it so much when it first starts because I'm like, oh, it's cozy season, and I love the evening time and the cozy time, and I definitely have embraced a hygge way of life, which, if you're not familiar with that word, it is kind of the embracing a cozy way of life. And it's a Danish word for embracing the cozy and just bringing in elements of whatever that means for you. So for me, it's very much like lamps and warm lighting and candles and, nice blankets and pillows and throw blankets and all of that kind of stuff. And hot cups of tea and cute mugs and slippers and cozy pajamas and all of those things. And so, it's when that first hits, it's like, oh, I love it. I love this cozy. It's even more cozy time every day. But, I know that drains on us after the novelty wears off very quickly. And then it's like, oh my God, it's dark at 4:30 p.m. But the benefit of that is that we woke up to a lot more light today. I didn't wake up in the dark, so that was great. And it's interesting that we're even talking about this and talking about the flip side of something or the opposite or finding balance. One thing wanes and the other thing waxes. And that's certainly kind of a theme of our lives and experience being human. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about perception today and how our perception can change what we see and how we experience reality, right? So let's start with the definition of perception, which is a noun, meaning the ability to see, hear, or become aware of something through the senses, the state of being or the process of becoming aware of something through the senses. A way of regarding, understanding, or interpreting something, a mental impression. Basically, it's a way that you think about something or the impression you have of something. And so, let's talk about that when it comes to a topic that definitely is relevant at this time of year, this early beginning of November. Samhain, we just had the season of Samhain, and that liminal, the last episode we talked about the liminal space that really is on offer at this time of year. So let's talk about the veil, okay? The veil, as so many people will use the word, is like when we hear the term thinning of the veil, what does that mean is kind of the question that I'm asking today. And could it be that just our perception and what we've been taught or what's been ingrained in us, that the veil, quote unquote, has thinned at this time of the year, therefore there's more spiritual activity, or we're more aware of spiritual activity? But could it be that it's just our perception of, oh, this is the time of year when the spirits come out, so we are looking for it more, or maybe able to connect the dots more or perceive something more? than we would say in like the middle of April, even though it's the same. So for me, the veil is one of those words, or that concept of the veil is one of those, like, it's very layered for me. When I hear other spiritual practitioners talking about the thinning of the veil, I have noticed that sometimes I'll have a little bit of a reaction to it, not in a judgmental way, just in a kind of way. Because for me, my experience as an intuitive person, an empath, a highly sensitive person who has always been sensitive to the energy of those around us, whether living or past, but hasn't always connected the dots. My perception is that that ability to communicate with spirit is always here. It's always close. It's always that close, and I don't feel like it's just like, in actuality, in fact, I don't think that the veil suddenly becomes more, what's the word I'm looking for? Available to everyone else that's not a psychic or a medium. I don't necessarily feel that. And that might be controversial, but that's kind of what we're here. We're here to, like, discuss things and hash them out and talk about opinions and just being open-minded to see things differently, right? Or that's how we learn. That's how I learn. I don't know about you, but that's definitely how I learn. So for me, I've always questioned, like, well, what does thinning of the veil actually mean? So I think that's a good time to go to Mr. Google here, and if we're looking at thinning of the veil, let's see. The statement, the thinning of the veil, means the separation between the natural and the supernatural worlds is weakening, presumably allowing more communication. Okay, so there's a definition. And do we actually think that that happens? Or do we think that we believe that happens, therefore it happens? That's what I'm asking you to think about, because it's in these kind of layered questions that we really discover how spirit works for us, or how to move through our own filter of reality. And filter reality is your perception, right? So let's work with this question. So a question that I asked on my paper here about a week ago, which really inspired this conversation, was, is the veil really thinner, or does it just appear to be because we believe it's thinner? This is a question I wrote on my yellow notepad here. And so from my perspective, it's like a double-edged sword. There's truth on both sides of this, which is the interesting thing you'll find as you continue to kind of dig down the rabbit hole and explore different belief systems, or, what your own belief in the spiritual is, what's being a spiritual person means, what living a spiritual life means. You'll discover that there's a lot more of this kind of in-between gray space, liminal space, than there is black and white. And it really kind of drives home this feeling that I have, that, reality is what we make it, right? So if we are, consider this. Consider people that would be born and raised into a specific culture, or into a specific time, or a certain family, or within a certain dynamic, and that influences their perception of the world, their belief systems, etc. And that's vastly different than somebody that could live, next door, or 500 miles away, or across the world. They have a different belief system, different lived experiences, different truth, different God, different whatever. And that's their truth, and that breeds their own reality. So there's two people coming together, experiencing reality in very different ways because of their exposure that has filtered and created this filter of perception, which then has created their filter of reality. So it's this interesting thing. It's like, could all things be true? And I know this is a weighty topic, and I'm probably a little bit convoluted right now because it is one of those topics that is just so vast and so big. But really, why I'm bringing it up is because I want us to think about everything to this degree, like to this level where we break things down, and we think about like, well, that's could be somebody's truth, but this is my truth, and both are correct because it is their truth. And more than one thing can be true, and more than one thing can be right. So let's get back to this question that's really underneath all this. Is the veil actually thinner, or is it thinner because we believe it's thinner? Therefore, it becomes thinner because of our belief in it. And I think the answer is yes. Yes to it all. I think that I do not believe that the veil, quote unquote, in any sort of tangible material way becomes thinner, more translucent, or closer to us. I believe that's the baseline it always is. And for some of us, like myself, and maybe like you listening, that's our baseline. That's the veil, the closeness of it, the accessibility of it all the time. And then for other people, maybe there's something that filters their perception to tell them that is not their truth, or that is not accessible to them, or that is not acceptable or safe or okay for them. But then maybe when we have all this big hoopla of this spooky season, and when there's a lot of talk and things have been ingrained for a long, long, long time in our collective awareness, that this is when the veil gets thinner. So if you're experiencing anything at all that's supernatural, or you believe is supernatural, it is spirit, and people are more apt to, number one, believe it. Number two, maybe even be aware that they're having a supernatural experience. And what does supernatural even mean? It's one of those words I've always thought about. Supernatural. Let's look up the definition. I should have a dictionary in front of me. Oh, wait, I do. It's on the shelf, actually. I have my grandmother's, my late grandmother's dictionary. It's one of those things that I always wanted to have. So let's see. Supernatural is an adjective. So it's a manifestation or event attributed to some force beyond scientific understanding or the laws of nature. Yeah. So it is relating to an order of existence beyond the visible, observable universe. Right. So, anything that lies just outside of our perception, right? Just outside of our own reality. Probably where that term, like, you have to see it to believe it. You have to experience it to know it, to believe it, to know it, where that lies, right? Because the minute that you experience something is the minute it becomes your truth, because you've experienced it, because it's come into your reality, and therefore it's now affecting your perception and your view of the whole world, right? So it's this really it's a convoluted topic, and it's a very layered topic, but it's one that I feel absolutely should be discussed, because I really, really believe that the collective, all of us here at this one time, and the events and the experiences that we are experiencing are really getting this image from spirit of like sweeping the cobwebs. It's clearing up our field in a big way. I feel like it's allowing, what I'm hearing is it's dissolving those kind of muddy areas in our reality, anything that is unaligned or untrue for us as a collective, and kind of uniformly, like how much what we want and what we need, right, is is rising at such a rapid rate that we're in this period of our eyes opening, right? And our perceptions are changing. And as this happens and we begin to step more into our truth, right? And that can look very different for different people. That can look like tapping into their spiritual gifts in the way that maybe I have or you have, and offering readings or healings or communicating with spirit, etc. It can look like that if that is what your truth is, and that's what you are here as a spirit and a soul to do in this lifetime for the collective. It may look like just aligning your life a little bit differently so that it feels more truthful or authentic to yourself. Regardless of what living a spiritual life means for you, it's happening and you are living one. And the more that you shed away and clear away the things that are causing stagnancy and the things that are causing discord between who we really are and what we do, is being cleared out as at like a rapid rate. So there definitely is a feeling of confusion that's happening right now, and we're all feeling it in big ways. And so certainly I believe that the more that we walk our truth, whatever that means to us, that our perceptions will absolutely begin to change, because we will begin to experience things that perhaps before, when we were living a little bit less aligned with who we are as a soul self, we're just on the other side of our perception. And so I do believe that is why so many more people, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, are beginning to have much more spiritual, or we could say supernatural experiences. Remember, supernatural being just, things that are not yet proven or observable by a scientific method, but still very much occur and are happening, just have yet to be proven. Remember, everything in science, the things that we now know concretely as being truth and factual because of science, at one point would have been called magic or hearsay or hogwash or whatever, right? Because it hadn't yet been proven in a tangible way. Now, do I believe that the spirit world will ever be able to be validated in a tangible way? I do. I do, in fact, believe that will be able to happen at some point in the future, where this ability to communicate to loved ones in spirit, or the fact that loved ones in spirit are around, or that there is in fact consciousness, continuation of consciousness after the bodily death. I do believe that all of that will be able to be measured in a really tangible scientific way. We're not there yet. It hasn't happened yet, but it will. It will. So, I'm sure at some point in history, somebody would have thought you were crazy if you explained air travel, an airplane. Never in a million years would that have ever happened. But interestingly enough, like what I have learned, from different spiritual texts or history books, has been that our collective used to believe much more in the afterlife and the truth in spirits and all of that kind of stuff. And now, much less so if you were to say something like robots or airplanes. And now it's like, how quickly the tables have turned, and all of those old truths will be remembered. So I believe that it's our belief system and our intentions that create our reality. Okay, so the experiences we have, the lived experiences we have, the belief system that we have, whether that's been learned or like ingrained in us throughout our lives, or whether or not that's something that we've learned through experience, that will absolutely affect how we experience the spirit world. In the sense that, there are some people that are much more fearful of the spirit world. And I have connected and read for people who are come to me a bit fearful. It's not very common. I would say most of the time, the people that come to me are very, very, very open. And I have had many, many skeptics, of course, and natural skepticism is absolutely encouraged. I think it's healthy, right? However, I have had people that are just scared poopless. And I'll say, I can feel it in their energy, and I'll say, do you want to reschedule? Like, we can meet again. Because that fear is like a closed door. So I can still, and I have still connected with that individual in a really big evidential way, and or brought their loved ones through in a way that was confirmed and validated by the client in front of me. But we had to really kind of work through some fear before we could get there, because their perception wouldn't allow it before, if you know what I mean. I'm sure that you have a lived experience of trying to explain something to someone and they're completely closed off to listening to it. They will not even open their mind around the fact that that could possibly be true. And it's those people, and I'm not just talking about spiritual stuff, mediumship, psychic work, I mean just in general about anything. And so it would, whatever that belief system is, whatever that perception is, filters out into their whole world. So, we have like a thing called confirmation bias, right? So when we are looking for something, when we have a belief system, then we attract experiences that are similar or the same as our belief system, which is why I have found personally, but also with clients, that after we'll have a reading, open the door a little bit to spiritual experiences, and they'll have those, validations come through in a big way during a reading, that afterwards, outside of the reading, in the real life, they will find things start happening more often, right? They're like, oh my God, that thing is happening all the time. I'm finding dimes everywhere. Before, never. Now they're constant. Or I never remembered my dreams, and now I remember dreams. And now I am remembering messages that come through or people that come through. Now I'm experiencing all of this. It's like when we change a little bit of our perception, even baby steps, then we begin to attract more of whatever that is that we're putting out there. So fear breeds fear, right? Love breeds love, joy breeds joy, curiosity breeds curiosity. And, I'm very often asked questions about fear and if I have fear with the spirit world or if I ever had. And the answer to that is no. I have never, ever, ever been afraid of the spirit world. But I believe that is because I had a near-death experience when I was 6 years old. And so there was some degree of that was safe and that was fine and that was good. And so it's not fearful for me or to me to think about connecting to a loved one in spirit or having an experience like communicating with spirit. But if I had had maybe a different upbringing, maybe if I had different past life experiences, maybe if I had a different kind of societal experience, maybe if I had parents or friends or whomever that would have placed fear in me around the spirit world. It was kind of a blank slate with me when I was growing up, in the sense that religion wasn't a thing really for me. It was kind of like, yes, there's a God. Yes, there's a Jesus, but like what I mean to say is that religion didn't play a major part in my upbringing or my daily life or that of my parents. So there wasn't necessarily any fear around ghosts or spirits. but there wasn't any talk about it either. So I kind of feel it felt very neutral. Um, there was literally no confirmation bias. It wasn't like I was thinking that everything is a spirit sign, and it wasn't that I was thinking that everything is scary. Very, very neutral, which I think was a benefit for me in my own experience. But I have connected to people who have grown up in environments where things were taught that any form of spiritual communication is, not to be played with, and something that you do not do and is extremely dangerous. So if you have those experiences yourself, that belief system that's been ingrained in you, or at least that perception of reality that somebody has built around you, and then you begin to have some sort of different experiences yourself. So it's like when we've got this inner and the outer that aren't on the same page, that we then get into the discord. And I believe this may be why the dark night of the soul is even experienced in the sense that it is, or how great it is. If you have very, very, very rigid, let's just say rules, right? Or this is how things are. And if that's been ingrained within you through lifetimes, or through DNA, or, just through your own lived experiences in this lifetime, yet you begin to experience things that are different than this perception of reality that you've created and that you've believed to be true, that could feel very, very unnerving, right? That could feel very scary. And I have known people that have had that experience. I'm thankful that I would say I did not have that experience, because, like I said, I think it's because it was very neutral, and it felt very natural to me, and very like, oh, okay, this is what this was, or this is what we're doing. And there was no discord. But for others, there is. And so we need to tread lightly with this, and we just need to understand that dark night of the soul, I truly believe, is just you are experiencing something that goes against, threatens, or questions your perception of reality, which causes all of those feelings, right? That disconnect, that fear. And we know that fear breeds fear. So when we're fearful about something, we find more reasons to be fearful. You can take an example of, like, over Thanksgiving. I may have talked about this on the podcast, I can't remember, but over Thanksgiving, Canadian Thanksgiving, which was a month ago, we have cameras in one of our storage rooms. It's called the server room. It's where my husband keeps the server and all of that kind of electronic stuff. And there's nothing in it but that stuff. And he has a camera in it. And on Thanksgiving morning, I was up early peeling potatoes and all of that kind of stuff, and getting ready for the day. And he texted me from bed, because he was still in bed, and he's like, "Are you inviting ghosts into our house?" And I said, "Why?" And he said, because look at this video. And he sent me this video of what had just happened in our server room. And it's these two, they look like orbs, right? But they're the exact same shape. They look like ovals, kind of long ovals. And they come forward in the video. They go down, then they go back together like that. So it's a very uniform kind of motion. They stick together, and it's almost in a graceful way, and just how they go forward and then back. It's not like just a dust particle flying across your screen. It's much more like, it feels very intentional, and it's like slow motion, and it goes back like that. And that happened multiple times since then, by the way. I don't know if I've shared that. And, for me, when I shared that video on my social media, a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, that's so cool," or "That's definitely your dad and your nanny." And then I had equal those kind of responses, and then equal, "Holy shit, I'd be moving out. I'd be so scared. There ain't no way. Aren't you terrified?" And that's just perception, right? If I was somebody who was very fearful about spirit or having spirit around or what that could mean, yeah, that would be an unnerving experience. I shared that with my best friend and she's like, nope, absolutely not, burning the house down. Right? That would cause her extreme discomfort and anxiety and maybe worry. For me, I'm like, hey, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for joining me. And that's it, because that's my perception. So I don't want to bypass anybody's lived experiences. If you've had something happen where you have felt very fearful about it, I'm not here to tell you that you didn't actually have a fearful experience, but I am here just as food for thought to think about why that's fearful, why that breeds fear within you, what that could be saying to you, and if that could, maybe just mirror something to you versus, and like reflect your perception versus the truth. I just really want people to not be afraid of the spirit world. I am the biggest scaredy cat ever. I really am. I don't like scary movies. I don't like suspense. I would never go through a haunted house or a haunted corn maze. Heck to the no. Not interested. That stuff scares the crap out of me. I'm way too much of a highly sensitive person to deal with that kind of stuff. However, ghost, spirit, not scary at all to me. And I believe it's just because of that perception I have that they are not scary. I believe that also impacts the type of readings I have or the types of connections that I make, right? So there are going to be mediums out there or psychics out there whose whole intention is to connect to the more scary or fearful kind of energy. And I believe if you look for that and you put that out there, that you will find it. I totally do believe in that. And that's something that I've changed my perception on in the last few years. If you asked me maybe 5 years ago if I believed there was like scary spirits, I would say no. But now I believe there could be, because of this whole concept that we're talking about today, about perception and what we put out and what we look for. And so I just want to put that out there, that I really and truly believe that what we put out does come back to us. What we are looking for comes back to us. It finds us. If we are able to feel more comfortable with the concept of life after our physical passing, or the consciousness continuing after, and if that becomes less scary and less other and less creepy crawly, we will not fear it so much, and then we will begin to have different experiences with it. Death and spirit is a natural part of life. Death has to occur with life, and we are a spirit right now, So I've always thought to myself, why would I be afraid of spirit? Because every spirit is just somebody's loved one. And it reminds me of that movie. What's that movie with Bruce Willis? I know you know what I mean. I can't think of the name of the movie right now, but it came out probably like in the late 90s. You know what I mean. Bruce Willis, if you don't, Google Bruce Willis movie about ghosts, because it will come up. But it's this, this movie in which there's a little boy who is essentially being haunted, quote unquote. It's how they portray the movie, that he's being haunted by these different spirits. And, it goes on that all any of them really needed was to be heard, to be validated, to share a message with someone. And then they did, and then they left and they went away. Right. And so, and also, I hope I'm not ruining rather this movie for anybody, but in that movie at the end, it's revealed that the person that helps this little boy through all of this, who is played by Bruce Willis, is actually a spirit himself, a ghost himself. But The reason I bring that up is because the perception of the little boy was not to be fearful of him, but was fearful of the others. But they were all ghosts. They were all spirits. Just changes our experience based on what we believe it to be true. Because he believed the character that Bruce Willis was playing was living, and he wasn't coming through as being scary or in like he was haunting him. Therefore, he thought he was just a regular person, right? Living person. The other ones, there was more fear because of his perception too. And then the minute his perception changed, because he realized, oh, they just wanted to be heard, or they just needed a message shared, or they just needed help, then they just went off into the light or wherever they went. And so I think that's a good example of perception and how it affects our reality. And so, I believe that the veil thinning, it could feel as if the veil is thinning for kind of blanket statement, the general population, because there's so much buildup around, oh, it's Samhain, the veil is thinning, your ancestors are around. This is a time when you will be able to hear them or communicate with them more easily. Therefore, because you believe that, because you've been told that, then when you experience some form of spirit communication, you're like, that was my great grandma, or that was, whoever, my Uncle Bob. And you believe it, or you are probably more likely to believe it than if you were to experience that at another time of year when that wasn't a thing. And all I'm saying is I think the veil is thin all the time if you want it to be, if you want to experience the spirit world. It's just the importance of our beliefs and our intentions. That's why I say here, our intentions are everything in life, but also, especially when it comes to anything spiritually, or if you're trying to manifest something, or, navigate something in the world that you're wanting to bring into reality. It's all about intention. It's all about what you're wanting and what you can take from something. It's the intention. It's like this image, Spirit's giving me this image in this moment of, of something like, say, like a piece of coal wrapped up in bright, shiny paper. And our perception is like, oh, it's this gift. It's in all this bright, shiny paper, right? Think about all the things in your life that you could think are, oh, I need this. This is lucrative. This is attractive. It's shiny. I need it. I don't just mean material things. Expand our awareness out. It could be like what we think we've been told we need, what job we think we should take, what we need to be doing in life in terms of our timeline, or, how we express ourselves, how we just kind of navigate the world. We feel like there's these bars that have been set. These are all these bright, shiny things. But the thing is, if they're not authentic to us, or they're not meant for us on our path, we do all that work, ripping off all that shiny paper, and then inside we find coal, because and it's not fulfilling. It wasn't a gift after all. Right? Or then we could find something beautiful and absolutely soul fulfilling wrapped in a very different paper. Maybe it's like brown paper packages tied up in strings. These are a few of my favorite things. I would love to find something in a brown paper package because I like brown paper. But I'm being silly. But you get the point that I'm trying to say here. We have a perception of, oh, something in that red shiny paper is going to be better than something that's in this brown paper bag. But it might not be. Okay, I want to leave you with a quote, and it is by the Honorable Wayne Dyer. And it is, when we change the way we look at things, the things we begin to look at change. When we let's start over. When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at begin to change. Our perception begins to change. Our reality begins to change. So I'll leave you with that. I know that was all over the place, but that's the energy I'm in today. And I really just wanted to open up the door to this thing we call perception and reality, and empower you to know and to believe and to experience that you can change your reality by changing your perception. And you change your perception by changing your intention. Okay? Lots of love. See you next week. If you have enjoyed this episode, please consider hopping on over to wherever you listen to your podcast and giving it a 5-star review. Thank you so much in advance. If you'd like to keep in touch, please head over to my website, theintuitiverising.com, to keep up with all the things that I have been doing. I also have a private Facebook community for people just like you. It's called the Intuitive Rising Community. All you got to do is request to join, and I will let you in. Keep rising.